Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic, host of Bachelorette Recap, a guy's review. Good to see everybody. Look, we're talking about Chatty Broads, Bekah and Jess. All right, so this is a video I did not plan on making. I have never gotten so many DMs from people asking me if I was going to cover this topic. It is, if the inner orbit of my channel is Bachelor-related news, then the next orbit is gossip surrounding Bachelor contestants. Now we've got Reality Steve, a commentator of the Bachelor universe, which is one orb away from that. So we're getting a little bit far away from the sun, which is known as Bachelor Nation. I understand, though, that Reality Steve is sort of a household name within the Bachelor community as he breaks spoilers and also his blog. I've never read his blog. I didn't know we still did blogs. But, of course, Chatty Broads had, let me pull the tab up here, had a YouTube video come out yesterday, the video titled Discussing Colton and Batch Nation Misogynist Exposed. So they are reading some of Reality Steve's previous writings. And to be quite honest with you, this might be hard for you guys to believe. I barely even know what Reality Steve sounds like. The first time I heard him was when he went on Clubhouse and I was waiting at the dentist and I put the Clubhouse app on, which, by the way, does anyone use Clubhouse anymore? I've used it once and I was like, I don't like this. Too much listening. I like to talk. So that was the first time I heard him, and he was talking about why they should cancel Chris Harrison. And I was actually surprised at his progressive take on the issue. He used some terms I never even heard of said out loud. Like he used a lot of progressive terminology, and as a progressive I was like, wow, I didn't know this was what we got out of old Texas's Reality Steve. So then to find out that he has this misogynist past, I'm not terribly surprised. I think everyone has said things and had a viewpoint that has changed and evolved over time. So what I'll do is I'll react to it. I'll react to his apology, and I'll play a couple minutes of Bekah and Jess reading what he said. He does talk a lot about Jade, who had posed, I believe, for Playboy, and this one hit close to home because I am engaged to a professional model. Tasha, my fiance, Tasha Courtney, is a model, and she works in the industry, and I've got to see close up how people treat and value those that are looked at as commodities within the industry. It's disgusting, and people are worth more than whatever photos they take. I've talked extensively with my friend Raquel Pomplin, who is the first Playmate of the Year from Mexico. She's a Mexican-American Playmate of the Year, moved here as a child from Mexico. And I've heard about, like, people, they just want to say, oh, you shot a nude photo? That's who you are. And this just shows how conservative our viewpoints are in our country when it comes to posing nude and even risque photos. It's not about what emotions it might elicit from the guys. It's about the woman expressing who she is. That's what it's about. So you got to take whatever you feel from watching that and keep that to yourself, okay? Because if we keep on shaming people for sharing their, we are just steps away from a society I don't think any of us want to be a part of. So rather than look inward and be all defensive about, he was a misogynist, he said this, he said that. Yeah, let's note it. Asterisk, Reality Steve said this. Now Reality Steve apologized. Where do we go from here? That doesn't negate anything he said or did. Let's listen and watch this, and then we'll talk about his apology, and we'll take some notes.
I hadn't seen. I was looking for an acknowledgement or a podcast about it, but I hadn't seen it. Now it might be out there and we're not aware of it, but it's not that I found.
Regardless, it made me wonder, like, because his reaction to on his live was so defensive about like the idea that he might have like some sort of like race-related internal bias that he hasn't fully addressed. Like his reaction was extremely defensive, and like I personally I've never heard of these things that he published before that I guess people just are ignoring or don't know about. But they show an extreme, like I said, like bias, a misogynistic bias. Yeah. And okay, basically there is a thread that was posted on is it the POC Bachelor subreddit? What is it called? The Bachelor _POC subreddit.
Okay.
I mean, these are, by the way, direct screenshots. I mean, you can look this up. It's called Reality Steve Sucks, a collection. And these are all direct screenshots from his blog, like you can tell with the ads and all of that.
That's gonna be me one day. Dave Neal Sucks.
That I saw actually in other Reddit posts, like people post about before without actually having screenshots. Like, do you guys remember when he said this shit, kind of thing? And a lot of people in the comments of the post would be like, I 100% remember that, and like he deleted that tweet in particular, or like I wasn't able to find it on his site or whatever. But this is something that it seems like a lot of people, at least on the subreddits, have corroborated, being like, yeah, I remember seeing that. And these are direct screenshots from his blog. Okay, broads, this is Bekah here, just popping in from the future. I just wanted to also add in that I've now gone through some of these blog posts and searched them and have kind of independently verified them on my own. Pretty much all of these blog posts are still in existence, either on his current blog or on his former blog. Didn't take much digging. Anyway, just wanted to throw that in, that I have screenshots, and I have just seen on my own that these are in fact direct screenshots from Reality Steve's website.
Good reporting. That's good.
And a lot of them, a lot of it, but not all of it. Like, a lot of these screenshots have to do with Jade, who, if you'll remember, was on Chris Soul's season. And one of her whole, like, her storyline arc on his season was that it came out that she had posed in fully nude photos. And I believe that was like kind of the main reason he broke up with her, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Regardless, that was those photos where, you know, she posed for them and they were published and they were being broadcast across the internet when she was on the show. And I mean, there, like, if you do go through this thread, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
I mean, like here's just some little sentences, you know, like he's writing up her bio thing, like currently lives in Los Angeles, blah, blah, blah. There's photos Jade once posed for Playboy. We're not talking, oh, she took her top off and there's one shot of her on the internet topless. No. If you want to see all 15 photos from that photo shoot where Jade is not shy about showing the whole world her goodies for free, blah, 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 you can search it. He really
she got paid. She didn't show them for free.
Season, because he does little recaps of each episode. Like, oh my God, it's very weird. Okay, so he's talking about a recap of an episode. Then came Jade. Oh, Jade, so sweet, so innocent, so pulling the wool over Chris's eyes. In the middle of the conversation, Jade has to think of a clever way to get Chris back to his room. So she concocts this. A lot of the girls were talking about your place. Maybe you could show me? Good one, Jade. How many times has that worked for you in the past with photographers? Or is it the other way around? You know, like when you did this photo shoot.
This line has aged very, very poorly. The trope that women will sleep into a role within, you know, an employment. Oh, did you sleep to get that part? Oh, you must have slept with the photographer. You know, there's plenty of women that have had very, very, you know, bad issues with photographers taking advantage of them during a photo shoot. It almost always happens to naive models, people that are new to the industry, that are new to Los Angeles, that are new to whatever the case may be. They're preyed upon when they come to this town. I live in Los Angeles. Like I said, I'm coming to this knowing what my fiance has to deal with, and tons of other models and actresses that I know, what they've had to deal with. To make light of the idea that someone slept their way into a favorable position, it really strips away the complete aura of somebody. Like, Jade seems like, from what we know, a real stand-up person. She seems like a good gal. And to throw away this line, because that's what it is, a throwaway line. Well, so-and-so must X, Y, and Z, sends it off. Just to send it off the way he did just takes all of someone's, you know, personhood as a daughter, as a mom now, as a girlfriend, boyfriend. It just takes that all away and says, oh, you probably did that. You probably banged somebody because, because you might like to take a nice photo. That aged very poorly.
Another quote, I'm sure plenty of people who knew nothing about...
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe aging poorly is the wrong term. It probably wasn't great at the time, for sure. So that's almost like something being stale and just later on still stale. It was bad to start and it aged bad.
About Jade's past were sold on her Cinderella date. How she's portraying herself on the show versus her past couldn't be more polar opposite. That's what I'm here for, people. You're welcome. It's a hell of an act that Jade is putting on to sucker America in. It's basically impossible not to watch her date last night and think of her past. This isn't something she did at 19 when she was young and dumb. The implications, by the way, of that sentence. This was right after she moved to LA in 2013. Jade said, I model for a website for clothing. That's the funniest thing I heard all night. I think you meant a website where she has us wear as little, where they have us wear as little clothing as possible. Blah, 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 blah. Again, he just has all this stuff about like fooling Chris. Listen to this one. I don't remember the last time any Cinderella went spread eagle for Playboy showing everyone her lady bits. Ooh, wow. There's that. I mean, these are actually kind of tame.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some coming up that
he's really fixated on the Cinderella thing. Jade ? Cinderella ? Bah ha 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 across the whole page. Like, okay. Then Jade utters the line of the night, saying they decided to test out Chris's bed. Oh, if Chris only knew then what experience Jade has testing out beds. I mean, patio chairs. I mean, antique cars. Whatever. Okay.
Is that because she had posed on those things? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, because she posed on them for like the Playboy shoot. Of course, a lot of you thought her boob was exposed during this makeout. Not that we haven't seen enough of Jade's boobs everywhere already, but this is one time where it wasn't. It was just a nude colored bra.
I remember.
No,
there's.
Here's a great one.
I actually thought her photo shoot, I found out about this for the first time several months ago, and we looked it up on my live stream, and I accidentally Googled it. I didn't think the photos would show up. I thought they'd have to be like, click here, and all of her photos showed up, and then I was lucky not to get kicked off YouTube. I've since removed that clip. I was shocked, if you remember. I was like, you know what I mean? I was doing it live, so I thought the photos came out very beautiful. I thought that they were actually very well done, and I think I could imagine a world where Jade, as she becomes a mom and moves on, will look back with nostalgia at the work she had done. Honestly, I know I've had this conversation with Tasha where she's been asked by people that work with it, that have done Playboy shoots that I've talked about before, to do her own Playboy shoot, and she's got a lot of like growing up in Kentucky, and she's like, I don't know, there's a lot of pressure there, but I think she's considered it because it is like a timestamp of a part of your life. It is like, I'm sexy, I'm beautiful, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And that's kind of the mentality we want to embrace in life. We want to embrace the fact that it's like, look, if you want to have your own nude publishing, nude magazine, like an OnlyFans, and you want to control it on your own terms, great. If you want to do a Playboy one because it's like, you could say you did that, and you want, great, absolutely, whatever makes you happy.
And Jimmy tells the girls they'll be competing in a hoedown throwdown. Unfortunately, Jade isn't on this group date, so it's not truly a hoedown. Okay, these are again all tame. We're actually building it up. There are so many on here though. He fixates on it again when Jade and Tanner get engaged, about her past. This is like, we're about to briefly discuss Jade's mention of sexual assault. Heads up.
Yes, just as a heads up, please, as a trigger warning.
I mentioned this in Thursday's video chat, but if you haven't read it already, this is from Steve's blog post. I suggest you read Jade's blog post from last week about being raped as a teenager. One thing I always said over and over again when it came to Jade's Playboy past is that I never understood it. It's one thing to do a sexy photo shoot, but maybe do Maxim where you're topless but covering your breasts. But to see Jade's fully nude Playboy pictorials, then see how she was on social media, and with the numerous bikini shots, blah, 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 something always seemed off. They weren't matching up. Now that I know what she went through as a teenager, I get it now. I don't know anybody that's been raped or sexually assaulted, but you read enough stories of women who have talked about it.
Steve, you don't know anybody who has been sexually assaulted, but they exist. They just haven't told you. 1 in 4 women, I don't have the stats with me. Obviously, we've talked about domestic violence. We've talked about sexual assaults. It's way more prevalent than some might have thought. Oh, well, now that she says this has been her problem, it's like this happens to everyone in our lives. Everyone in our lives is affected by the targeting and objectification. and in violation of kind of who they are. So while in her past she had been violated in whatever, form she was talking about, but now Reality Steve is doing the same thing to her aura. You understand? Reality Steve thinks, I'm not doing it physically, so I'm not doing it. Well, you're judging her in a way where you're stripping away her authenticity, who she is, by saying, oh, must not be a hoedown. Jade's not on the state. You're saying Jade is synonymous with hoe because she did Playboy photo shoots. So to leap there, you're saying Jade's a hoe because she posed nude. That's not the case, man. That's not the case. Now, Reality Steve has apologized. Let's read this. Let's be fair, folks. Let's hear what he has to say about the words he said in his past. This seemingly was several years ago. And I know people are going to say he's a grown man, this and that. And all I can say is this. And again, please don't get it twisted. I am not defending Reality Steve for 1 second here. But what I am saying is this is good that people are acknowledging their past and then they're trying to do better. What would be wrong is if he was super defensive a la Taylor Nolan. I think people were actually surprised the way he apologized yesterday. He said, wanted to address my past writings that were brought to light again today on a podcast. There was no excuse for them. I'm embarrassed I thought that way. I'm embarrassed I wrote it. And ever since, I've done whatever I could to change that line of thinking. Those that have followed me in recent years have recognized the change in my blog, in my tweets, and on my podcast. While it should have been removed earlier, they are currently being removed from my site. Those that have followed me, all right, so that's the end of it. And then he says, I have never shied away from acknowledging these writings and will always apologize for them. I do not think that way anymore, and I hope my behavior in recent years has proven that. I'm sorry to anyone who had to read those things. I am and will continue to do better. Now, I'm not an expert on the situation with Jenna and the sort of information that Reality Steve had that broke up her relationship. That's out of my pay grade, folks, and I can't comment on that because, like I said, I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough about the Grace, Rachel, Kirk, Connell, Matt James scenario other than we'll let their relationship play out and see what happens. Reality Steve obviously was sort of in the mix there with getting Grace and Rachel linked up to know what Matt James was up to. So let's read a few. This is on the subreddit, The Bachelor. Let's read a couple of the comments from people who I think the Bachelor subreddit would be the hardest on Reality Steve. I think this would be the subreddit that would really be, tough on him. So this is after he apologized. Honestly, I'm pleasantly surprised to see this response. I agree that he has significantly improved from where his writing and mentality used to be. He is still far from perfect and has a lot to work on, but I'm glad he said this instead of doubling down or being dismissive. Now, of course, I have pulled these comments up from the highest rated ones first. So this had 836 people gave it a thumbs up. This was the right way to respond. Same. This response was humble and down to earth. I'd like to see Reality Steve continue to do better. He brought Tayshia's ex-husband on last year, right? But as far as responses in the moment go, this is pretty good. This is where I'm at. I'd like to see fewer statements and more people just improving their actions and letting that speak for themselves. Honestly, after so much listening and learning last year from so many people in Bachelor Nation and beyond, these statements are just so meaningless to me. Well, here's the deal, right? We get inundated with so much information about the way Chris Harrison responded to Rachel Lindsay, the way people responded to Chris Harris. There's so much going on that I understand when people say, I'm tired of hearing apologies. But every single person is on their own spiritual journey. So for Taylor Nolan, she kept up these old hateful, racist, homophobic, she kept all these tweets up as she thought she was doing it as the skull on the post to say, this is what I was. I'm not afraid to hide from it, which is kind of lazy, but that was her defense. And then people said, no, it's still triggering people. So just get that down. And I agree with getting it down because I think if you want to be represented for who you are today, you don't need to remind people of who you were yesterday. Now, as a comic, as years of I've been in the Screen Actors Guild for almost 15 years now. There's nobody that has content online that is impressed with who they were 10 years ago, even 3 years ago. Everyone's on a different timeline. If Reality Steve got defensive here and didn't own up to it, that would be one thing. And again, I don't read his blogs. I've never been to his website. If it's not a thing that's going viral, that's posted, I don't comment on it. I'm no expert with regards to The Bachelor. I barely remember, once after every season, I forget half their names, like we all do. Then we're reminded and we go, oh, that person, yeah, I guess I do know them. So the question I have for you guys is, do you accept an apology from someone who has committed to doing better? And while I don't think it's gotten as much steam as it has now today from the platform of Chatty Broads, I do think he has addressed this in the past. So you have seen a little bit of a sample size of him doing better. And these comments right here, just the top ones, I'm not cherry picking these folks. These comments said, I'm honestly surprised to see his response. So that's the question. I know the tweets are going to go on and on. There's another 30 minutes, here. And what he had to say about, this Cinderella story and how Jade's no Cinderella. If Cinderella wants to show her naked body, maybe she's wearing one slipper, maybe she's got the other slipper, like, come find my Prince Charming. Whatever Cinderella wants to do, she's allowed to do. That's the world we live in, their Reality Steve. And somebody should be, my fiance, she'll do photo shoots where it's implied nudity or it's bikini and there's a photographer. And it took a lot of growing for me to be comfortable, to be like, I'm happy for you, because I've always been happy for her. But then, all right, it's going to be a photographer and another guy or whatever doing some lingerie photo shoot. You have to trust, I trust in her. She's been a professional model for a long time. She's over 15 years, right? Probably longer. So she's made her whole living taking photos in the commercial world and print photography, fit modeling, swimwear. So she's been in that world where there are seedy guys. But the sad part is they know that Tasha's my fiance. They know that she's not going to be the one who wants to stay late and have a few drinks and this and that. Tasha's very professional. Very professional. She's done it for a long time. The photographers, the people that are predators in the industry, casting people, producers, they know who's the new person who doesn't know any better. And that's the scary part, is how do we warn those types of people when they come into entertainment or come into photography or Instagram modeling or whatever it may be? How do we warn those people? And it's an ongoing challenge. But to think that Reality Steve was adding fuel to the fire by his misogynist bias, I'm not surprised. The one thing I'll say, my channel, and this video might be long because I want to get it right, and I do know that what I have to say, just like Rachel Lindsay, people will take one line, and I do this to them too, so I get it. You got to get someone to click on your video, right? Or else you're just barking up a tree in the middle of nowhere. So I get that lines are taken, away from a conversation. I'm not apologetic towards the experience Reality Steve's going through. I understand his apology is pretty good because he has moved on from it, and he does have the body of work to show that. To say, look, this didn't happen yesterday. Over the last couple of years, I've readjusted my way of thinking. And look, as an example, like I've said this before with Colton Underwood, I've been obsessive. I've been possessive. I've been jealous. I've been those guys that Colton was, never to the extent of placing a tracking device under the hood of my ex-girlfriend's car, but I understand and have empathy, that heartbreak, and when you put all this energy into it, and the codependency that comes with loving someone more than they love you, and then you resent them because they don't love you back. I get all of that. If you don't get any of that, I think you need to keep on living, right? Because those are emotions we all go through. With regards to Reality Steve, he comes from a place, I don't know what it is, I don't know his history at all, where he thought he was being funny and quippy and maybe edgy, but he's like, oh, she models, she must be a hoes don't blah, 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 whatever. One thing after another. One of my role models growing up, it took me years, I think I learned this in my 20s, a close family member of mine was a close role model. And looking back, I see that he was very misogynistic, the way he treated his wife and other women. But I looked up to him, you understand? I looked up to him for several reasons. And I still love him, but I understand that by trying to be like him, I was continuing to pass the baton of that world. So I understand that you can redeem yourself with a new way of thinking. And I think that's important. The other thing with Reality Steve, people, you can decide not to get your news from him. whatever you want to do. Vote with your dollar, vote with the time investment you put into things. Absolutely. But if you do live in a world where you want people to learn and be better and use their platform to share their growth, you might find that Reality Steve has done that. Again, that's your choice to make and mine as well. A lot of people, you guys know this. They go, you got to watch so-and-so's podcast. You got to watch so-and-so's podcast. I do 3 to 5 videos a day. If I can find information that's sort of airtight and I can get to it, fine. But I don't actually consume that much Bachelor. I know it's going to be crazy to hear. I don't consume that much Bachelor content. You can't create and consume at the same time. So I do a little work. I make a video. I go back and I go forth. This morning, it's kind of apropos to the Jade situation. My fiance got an audition to play some like bikini hoe in a new, we'll call it a Showtime show. But it's a new show, and she had to play some bikini hoe who's sitting on some guy's lap. And, it's like, this world exists. She hated she had to do it, but it can always lead to another opportunity. Maybe Jade took the Playboy photos because she wanted exposure to another opportunity. Maybe she wanted to pay off her college debts. Who knows? Who cares? Her choice. Let's embrace people making choices to do what they want with their body. Let's get to a place in the world. We need to do the old national anthem where we're okay with sex workers being regulated, making sure there's not trafficking. Let's be okay with someone who wants to do nudity when they're over the age of 18 and can make legal adult choices for themselves. We live in the most conservative first world country in the world. We slut shame. We hoe shame. We shame people that are influencers. We shame people that write blogs for a living. We love to think that we're better off than other people, but the facts are we're all on our own path to learn and self-growth, and as long as people are owning the mistakes that they've made in the past and are adjusting to do better in the future, I say right on you. If they want to be defensive like Taylor Nolan and say, no, X, Y, and Z, then they're going to live in that rut. But as long as people own up to their issues, meet them dead on, promise to do better, while we might hate the term, I promise to do better, what else can we do but wait for them to take the necessary steps to improve the messages they want to put into the world and increase the positivity that we all wish to share. I think that pretty much sums it up for me. So, with regards to Reality Steve, quite the story. Leave a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'm not going to watch the rest of this on here. The video is long enough, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye now.